So we added the daily challenge to Heat Signature a little while back, and I've heard from quite a few people that it really clicked for them in a way that the game didn't previously. I've heard some people say that their playtime in the game just skyrocketed. They'd only put in sort of 8 hours before that point, and since that point, which was September, they've put in like 25. And I also heard that some people didn't previously find themselves having the kind of interesting emergent experiences that they know this game is supposed to be good at. Like, they keep hearing that's what is good about the game, but they personally never experienced those things until the daily challenge, and now they do, which is great. I suspect we probably haven't got everyone yet, like, who could be enjoying that kind of thing, but it's definitely significantly moved the needle. It's definitely for a big chunk of players, and this is, by the way, like a subset of people who are already playing the game. So there are probably a bunch of people we lost early on who bounced off the main game and haven't come back for this update because they don't care enough to to try it out. Who might have stayed interested if that had been part of the game at launch. I did want to do a daily challenge at launch. It was on the list. I knew that the list would lose many things, and I knew this was probably one of them. But it's interesting that it's been so effective in this particular way, because this is a topic that interests me enormously, which is like, once you figure out how to make a game that can be interesting, that can contain interesting, cool experiences, how do you then get more players to get to those experiences and have them? And especially in roguelikes, and especially in emergent games, this is a big unsolved problem, and one that really interests me. And it's funny because when I was thinking during Heat Signature's development, could we do a daily challenge for this? I knew I would love to do it if I possibly could. It felt like the structure of the game that I was going for didn't really support it, and that's one reason it didn't end up being in there at launch. There isn't a natural way to take the base game of Heat Signature and just make one of those per day, because the way Spelunky's daily challenge works, which kind of pioneered the daily challenge, it's just the game. It's just like, when you start the game, the experience you get is the same as when you start the daily challenge. It's just that the daily challenge is just this once. If you die, you don't get to play that particular set of generated levels again. And that wasn't really possible for Heat Signature. I did toy with the idea of, like, could we do a daily galaxy? Because like a daily life by itself, the simple version of that doesn't work because everyone's galaxy is different. The galaxy is randomly generated. We can't even be sure that the faction you're fighting against still exists in your galaxy. You might have wiped them out, so there might not be any such ships to fight against. So it wasn't viable to do it for launch. There was just too much work to figure out how it would even work. And then when we did go investigate it and look into how it could work, for one thing, it needed to be separate from the game. Like, it does take place in your galaxy, but it generates 3 ships that, if they're glitches ships, we just generate them even if you don't have the glitches in your universe. I think we do. Actually, I'm not 100% sure how we solved the edge case. But for the most part, the differences in your galaxy don't matter too much. Don't have a strong bearing on your performance in the daily challenge because we make them irrelevant. So you don't find ships spawning randomly as you fly around the galaxy. If you've got like a unique shipment that you haven't got yet, that's not going to come up while you're playing a daily challenge. We silo it, basically, make it its own thing. But beyond that, I also wanted to handle difficulty variance. And so you start with some items, and then there's a shop where you can buy more items, and everything you spend counts against your score. So you can actually buy everything. There's no limit on how much you can buy. It's just that will be subtracted from your score, and if you spend more than 600, there's no way to have a positive score. 600 is a lot, so you usually wouldn't. But it's a pretty strong deterrent to buy things for people who have any reasonable expectation of getting a perfect score or a near perfect score. But anyway, what that ended up doing was, I think because it was the daily, I having played a lot of dailies now, in Spelunky and Slay the Spire, and probably some other games, I know that I value, each day being different. That was one of the goals of this system. And so the starting kit we give you in the daily challenge is a lot more generous than what you get with just a generated character if you're playing the game normally. We give you like at least one really good item and a couple of I think it's one like tier 3 item, like something that's self-charging or armor piercing or a really rare quality, and then I think one rechargeable item and then 2 disposable items, something like that. And that's a good selection of stuff, and some of it might be really powerful. And the reason for that is that I wanted the especially the self-charging item, whatever that special one is, it's reusable. You can use it as much as you like. That those end up being playstyle changes in the game. Like if you find one of those in the normal game or in any context, it's usually good enough that you're going to use it and it's going to form a key part of your playstyle. Because like if it's a self-charging crash beam, I can just crash anything ever now, and I'm going to gear my whole playstyle around that. And so, because I wanted the days to be different, giving you a different one of those each day seems like an easy way to make those days more different. And then, of course, we mix that with, for all 3 of your missions, we generate just 3 missions for you, and you're just going to do those one after the other. We pick a particular playstyle requirement, and instead of, in the normal game, if there's a clause like don't set off alarms, you either fail that clause or you complete it. Or let's say don't kill. You either succeed in not killing anyone or you kill anyone at all and the clause is failed and you lose the bonus. I went back and forth on how that works. In the main game, it used to be that you got a bonus if you didn't kill anyone, and then I changed it so that there's the fee for the mission is the fee you get if you don't kill anyone. If you do kill anyone, we deduct something from the fee. The reason for that was because when it was a bonus, people didn't care about it, weirdly. It was easy to forget about. You're just like, oh, technically I wasn't supposed to kill anyone else, but who cares? Whereas when it's like, if it's 50 and there's a 50 acid bonus for not killing anyone, people weren't as invested in doing it. But if it's 100 and you lose 50 if you kill anyone, people are like, oh shit, I've already got to not kill anyone. So it's a purely psychological thing. But anyway, that was effective in getting people to pay attention to it and making those missions feel different and stuff. But I actually think what we came up with for the daily challenge was just a better solution all around, and I would have done that from the start if I'd realised how well it would work in practice, which is if you ask not to kill anyone, every person you kill deducts X from your score. And in the daily, it's your score. In a normal mission, it could have been your pay. It could have been you start at 100 pay, everyone you kill, you lose 10. And that would, because it's a penalty, you take it seriously, but it's also a sliding scale. It doesn't have to be all or nothing. And because the problem with an all or nothing thing is after you kill that first person, there's no reason to leave anyone else alive, just fucking murder everybody. Which doesn't feel true to the spirit of the mission. Like if the person's hiring you and they don't want you to kill anyone, really every kill should count against you. And I would never have thought of that except that we needed ways to differentiate your score from the next person. The 3 things I wanted to stop to avoid with the daily challenge is like, I didn't want a whole load of people to get the maximum perfect score. So like the sort of theoretical maximum score is 600, although I think it's impossible in practice. I didn't want everyone to get 600, like the top 10 people to all get 600, because then it's like, who won? Like there should always be a way to get like 1 more point than your friend. And then also, even not at the top tier, I didn't want a whole load of people to get the same score. So like if everyone did missions 1 and 2 and then they failed on mission 3, if it was an all or nothing thing, it'd be quite common for like a lot of people to have the same score. So we wanted a lot of variance there. And yeah, that ended up being just a better system, I think, for clauses, is penalised per infraction, is what I call that. And all of this, and then the other part is like the fact that we generate 3 missions and you just have to do those. You can't do anything else. There's no choice. You just have to do this one, and this one, and this one. That pushes you into situations you might normally choose to avoid. And the whole thing just ends up being like a better version of Heat Signature. I think it's just kind of what the game should have been. Like, if every time you started a character you got these 3 missions and a set of interesting tools, I think that might have been an overall kind of more varied and more kind of compulsive game. We're not going to do that now because actually it's kind of nice that it's a special thing in the daily challenge, that there's only one of these. Part of the appeal of the daily challenge is there's only one per day. The fact that the daily challenge is different to the main game kind of enhances that appeal. It's like, oh, this is like extra special because not only is there only one of these, not only do I only have one shot at this, but if I play the normal game, I don't get this experience. I don't get this interesting variant. So it's adding to variety now, but yeah, in future, if I was making a roguelike, I think I'd probably start with the daily challenge, and then if that didn't work as a sustainable structure, to just keep playing more and more and more, then adapt from there. But yeah, making a daily challenge pushes you to increase variance between sessions, I'll call them, in heat signature their lives. In Spelunky, it would be, a set of levels. Because you always start as the same, you always have 4 bombs and 4 ropes, there's no other variants in your starting conditions. And it also encourages you to kind of push people into, I don't know, I think if you'd suggested this to me as a way heat signature could have worked during heat signature's development, I would have said, no, we can't do that because it's too limited. Only 3 missions, and you just have to do them. That is too restrictive, and that might be true, and it might need to be bigger than that. But it's also the system we did end up with, I think, gives you so much freedom that you can choose your experience to its detriment. The old adage about players will optimize the fun out or something if they can. If players find a strategy that works on silence clause missions, and we continue to generate silence clause missions for them, even if it's only 1 of 8, and even if it doesn't always generate and they have to go and regenerate them somewhere else, they will repeatedly do that, even if the other missions would be actually more fun if they tried them. But it's hard to reconcile that with difficulty choice, and so Daily Challenge again kind of offered a solution to that of sorts, which is just that it's about how much score you get. It's not necessarily about you either win or you lose. It's whether you did win or you did lose, you'd get a score, and those scores are comparable. And so you can set your sights lower. And also buying stuff and having that count against your score is a way of adapting that to difficulty. I don't think we did enough there. I think there are still some people who just find the daily challenge straight up too hard, so there's probably more to explore there. But yeah, it was very interesting how the daily challenge pushed us to come up with a structure that's actually probably just better for the game in general, and in future will probably inform like how I design, if I ever do another roguelike, which I'm not planning to do next. But yeah, I think Daily Challenge pushes you to make good roguelike decisions.